Everything your doctor told you about blood pressure is technically correct. The medication is right, the low sodium advice is right, the monitoring instructions are right, and yet here you are, taking your pills on schedule, watching what you eat, checking your numbers, and something still does not feel resolved. The readings fluctuate in ways you cannot explain. Some days they cooperate, some days they do not, and no one in the examination room has ever fully explained why. That inconsistency is not random, and it is not a failure on your part. It is the result of a biological process happening inside your body every single day, one that the standard management framework was never designed to address. There is a variable in your blood pressure story that almost no clinical guideline accounts for, and once you understand it, the unpredictability you have been living with will begin to make complete sense. Hypertension is the leading cause of preventable cardiovascular death worldwide. The World Health Organization estimates that 1.3 billion adults are currently living with it, and fewer than 1 in 5 of them have it adequately controlled. The global medical response to these numbers has been largely consistent. Screen, prescribe, counsel on diet and activity, monitor. It is a rational approach, but it is an approach built around a single reading taken at a single point in time. And your blood pressure, it turns out, is never just a single point in time. My name is Dr. Chima Okoye. I am a physician with over 15 years of experience in internal medicine and cardiovascular wellness. The pattern I kept seeing in my patients, people doing everything right and still struggling, is what brought me here. Blood pressure is not a number. It is a rhythm. Every 24 hours, your blood pressure moves through a predictable biological arc, driven not by what you eat or forget to take, but by your body's internal clock. Most physicians are familiar with the primary rise, the morning surge that occurs as the body transitions from sleep to wakefulness, typically between 6 and 10 in the morning. Standard prescribing guidelines are largely built around managing this peak. But there is a second rise in blood pressure that occurs later in the day, far less discussed in clinical practice, and for adults over 60, often steeper and more unpredictable than the morning surge. It is not triggered by anything you are doing wrong. It is driven by biology. And the research is unambiguous. This second window is responsible for a disproportionate share of strokes, heart attacks, and sudden cardiac events in older adults. Almost no standard treatment protocol is designed around it. To understand why this second rise happens, you need to understand 4 converging biological processes. The first is your autonomic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that operates below conscious control and governs, among many other things, the tension in your arterial walls. Your autonomic system has 2 divisions. The sympathetic branch, your body's accelerator, it tightens vessels and raises pressure, and the parasympathetic branch, your brake. These 2 do not operate in fixed balance throughout the day. They cycle, shifting in dominance hour by hour. In the morning, the sympathetic branch leads. Through midday, the balance transitions. But in aging adults, this transition does not proceed smoothly, and the result is a window of heightened vascular reactivity that younger bodies do not experience in the same way. The second process is the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, known as RAAS, the body's primary hormonal mechanism for blood pressure control. The kidneys release renin, which triggers a cascade producing angiotensin II, a potent constrictor of blood vessels. Angiotensin II then prompts the adrenal glands to release aldosterone, which directs the kidneys to retain sodium and fluid, increasing blood volume and pressure. In younger adults, RAAS activity tracks the body's circadian rhythm predictably. In adults over 60, however, research published in the Journal of Human Hypertension has documented that RAAS responsiveness during the afternoon hours is elevated and less efficiently self-regulated, like a pressure valve that has slowly lost its sensitivity to the signals telling it to ease off. The third process is cortisol. Its arc is well established, high in the early morning, declining steadily through the afternoon. In younger adults, this afternoon cortisol decline helps counterbalance the vascular constriction building from RAAS activity. The two systems moderate each other. But as we age, research published in the journal Hypertension has confirmed that this cortisol-related vascular buffering weakens considerably, leaving afternoon arterial tone more reactive and less protected than it was in earlier decades. The safety net that once moderated the afternoon rise has grown significantly thinner. The fourth is arterial stiffness. Young, healthy arteries are elastic. They flex and absorb the pressure wave of each heartbeat. Aging arteries progressively lose that compliance due to collagen changes and calcium deposition in vessel walls. Stiff arteries cannot dampen a circadian pressure rise the way flexible ones can. Each spike registers harder, travels farther, and places greater demand on a heart already compensating for changes throughout the system. This is not an accelerated disease. It is normal aging physiology, but it is a physiology that makes the afternoon window uniquely dangerous and uniquely responsive to the right intervention used at the right time. Which brings me to the one compound most physicians have never connected to this specific window and why that connection may change everything about how you manage your pressure going forward. The compound is magnesium. Not the magnesium in a generic multivitamin, not the low-grade oxide form found in most store-brand supplements, and not the citrate sold primarily for digestive complaints. The specific form studied for blood pressure, and for the afternoon window in particular, is magnesium glycinate, a chelated form with substantially higher bioavailability in vascular tissue than inorganic forms. This distinction matters more than most practitioners convey. Here is how it works. Magnesium is a direct antagonist of calcium inside vascular smooth muscle cells. When calcium floods those cells, the muscle contracts, the vessel narrows, resistance climbs, pressure rises. Magnesium acts as the body's natural calcium channel modulator, blocking that entry and allowing the vessel to relax. But its influence extends further. Magnesium directly suppresses renin secretion at the kidney level and reduces the receptor sensitivity that allows angiotensin II to tighten vascular walls, blunting the RAAS cascade at two separate points. It also stabilizes the sympathetic discharge of the autonomic nervous system, attenuating the volatility that amplifies the afternoon pressure rise in aging adults. A 2012 meta-analysis in the American Journal of Hypertension, analyzing 22 randomized controlled trials, documented statistically significant reductions in both systolic and diastolic readings, with the largest effect sizes in individuals who were deficient at baseline, which NHA-NES data indicates describes roughly half of all American adults over 60. A subsequent analysis published in Hypertension, covering 34 trials, documented dose-dependent systolic reductions of up to 5.78 millimeters of mercury. The dosage range studied across these trials was 300 to 500 milligrams of elemental magnesium daily, with glycinate and malate forms consistently outperforming oxide in tissue uptake. The single best whole food source of this compound is not what most people reach for. It is raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds, specifically the green pepita, not the shell-on variety. And the way you handle them determines how much magnesium your body actually absorbs. 1 ounce delivers approximately 150 milligrams of elemental magnesium. Here is the preparation detail almost no one mentions. Roasting above 170 degrees Celsius alters the phytate structure of the seed in a way that increases mineral binding, reducing net magnesium absorption by an estimated 20 to 30% compared to the raw form. And commercial roasted varieties carry enough added sodium to partially counteract the antihypertensive effect you are consuming them to produce. The rule is simple: raw, unsalted in the afternoon. A small handful, roughly 28 grams, eaten between 2 and 4 o'clock positions a meaningful dose of magnesium in your system at the precise hour the RAS and autonomic pressure on your vasculature is building toward its daily peak. That timing is not optional. It is the mechanism. 3 additional compounds work alongside magnesium, each acting through a pathway that the primary remedy alone cannot reach. Coenzyme Q10, CoQ10, operates through a bioenergetic mechanism, not an antioxidant one. Its function is to maintain mitochondrial efficiency in cardiac muscle cells. When those mitochondria underperform, the heart compensates by generating greater contractile force per beat, which raises systolic pressure as a downstream consequence. A meta-analysis in the Journal of Human Hypertension found that CoQ10 supplementation produced mean systolic reductions of 11 millimeters of mercury in hypertensive adults. Among the most concentrated dietary sources are sardines and organ meats. The clinically studied supplemental range is 100 to 200 milligrams of ubiquinol daily, ubiquinol being the reduced active form, better absorbed than ubiquinone in adults over 60. The second is EPA and DHA, the long-chain omega-3 fatty acids found in cold water fish. These work through the eicosanoid pathway, shifting the prostaglandin balance in arterial walls away from vasoconstrictive forms and toward vasodilatory ones. The mechanism is distinct from anything magnesium or CoQ10 accomplishes. Independently of their effects on lipid profiles, they also reduce arterial wall stiffness, the same structural problem discussed in the previous section, making them directly relevant to how forcefully each pressure wave registers in aging vasculature. Studies published in Hypertension support 2 to 3 grams of combined EPA and DHA daily for meaningful reductions in both peripheral and central blood pressure. Wild-caught salmon is among the most practical sources, delivering approximately 2 grams per 100 gram serving. The third is extra virgin olive oil, specifically its polyphenol fraction, including oleocanthal and the secoiridoid compounds that activate endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme governing nitric oxide production in vessel walls. Nitric oxide signals smooth muscle to relax, reducing vascular resistance directly. A 2020 study in Nutrients found that daily consumption of 50 grams of high phenolic extra virgin olive oil produced measurable central blood pressure reductions within 4 weeks. The preparation point most people miss. Polyphenols in olive oil degrade rapidly above approximately 130 degrees Celsius. This oil works only when used cold, as a dressing or post-heat drizzle, never as a cooking medium at high temperatures. I wish someone had told me this earlier in my career. 15 years watching older patients struggle, specifically in the afternoon hours, doing everything right, taking their medications faithfully, monitoring consistently, and still returning to the examination room with numbers that no one in their treatment plan had built a framework to address. That's exactly why I created something specific for this. The 4 p.m. Fix, a 21-day afternoon reset for adults 60 plus with stubborn blood pressure, is a complete daily program built around that window. The routine runs 12 to 15 minutes and requires only a chair. Included are a 21-day tracker, chair-safe exercises, doctor conversation scripts, and an emergency reference card. You are not doing this wrong. You just have not had a plan built for the window that matters most. It goes for less than a consultation fee with your doctor right now, and that price will not hold for long. The link to it is right below this video in the description and pinned comments.com. The first step is the primary remedy timed correctly. Take 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate with food between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. Magnesium reaches peak vascular effect roughly 2 to 3 hours after ingestion, placing it precisely in the afternoon pressure window. If you prefer food, 28 grams of raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds at 2 o'clock achieves the same result. The second is your morning reading protocol. Sit with feet flat, do not speak, and wait 5 minutes after waking. Then take 3 readings 60 seconds apart and record the middle, not the first, which is almost always elevated by the transition from sleep. Single readings taken immediately after waking are not a reliable clinical baseline. The third step targets the 3 to 6 p.m. window. Twice in that period, roughly at 3 and 5 o'clock, stand and perform 10 slow heel raises, followed by 10 shoulder rolls in each direction, under 2 minutes per set. This activates the skeletal muscle pump, which reduces peripheral vascular resistance at the exact moment the biology is pushing hardest against you. The fourth is a dietary elimination, not sodium broadly, but ultra-processed foods specifically. These products carry hidden sodium compounds, sodium phosphate, sodium nitrite, monosodium glutamate. Unlike table salt, these bypass the taste threshold that limits voluntary intake and disrupt RAS-mediated sodium handling at the kidney level. More than 5 ingredients in a package. Treat it as a blood pressure event. The fifth step takes under 2 minutes. When tension or stress arises in the afternoon, exhale slowly through pursed lips for a full 8 count, 4 times in succession. Prolonged exhalation activates the vagus nerve, the primary parasympathetic pathway, and measurably reduces vascular resistance within minutes. This is direct autonomic intervention, not a relaxation exercise. The sixth is sleep timing. Your circadian blood pressure rhythm is anchored to your consistent wake time. Hold it within 30 minutes every day, including weekends. In adults over 60, irregular wake times disrupt the overnight pressure dip that is the cardiovascular system's primary recovery window, and its absence is one of the strongest predictors of morning surge severity. The first mistake is treating a single reading as your definitive number. Blood pressure cycles 20 to 40 points across a 24-hour period. A casual afternoon reading taken without proper position or timing may simply capture the biological peak of that day's cycle, and physicians are making treatment decisions from it. A reading taken at the wrong moment is not a data point. It is noise documented as fact. The second is concentrating all medication in the morning and assuming coverage extends through the day. Most antihypertensive medications reach their lowest plasma concentration in the late afternoon, the same window where the biology generates maximum vascular pressure. A pharmacological gap opens precisely when protection is most needed. This is not a failure of the drug. It is a failure of timing that clinical guidelines were not designed to address. The third is logging readings taken immediately after stress or caffeine. Sympathetic activation can raise a reading by 15 to 30 points within minutes. When those numbers enter a monitoring log, even occasionally, they shift the documented trend upward and invite medication adjustments that are clinically justified for the recorded number and completely unwarranted for the actual resting pressure. This is how people end up over-medicated. The fourth is trusting low sodium labels. Products can display a low sodium claim while containing sodium phosphate, sodium nitrate, and monosodium glutamate, compounds that do not appear in front of package messaging but accumulate in total daily intake. The average adult eating 3 or 4 processed products daily frequently exceeds the recommended sodium ceiling without ever adding salt to a meal. They reduce the shaker. They do not reduce the pressure. The fifth is afternoon dehydration. When fluid volume drops, the kidneys activate the RAAS to retain sodium and preserve pressure. Most older adults front-load their fluids in the morning and are functionally dehydrated by mid-afternoon. The resulting blood pressure spike looks identical to uncontrolled hypertension and is routinely treated as such. The problem is not the medication. It is the glass of water that was never poured at 2 o'clock. Here is what most people are never told about blood pressure. It is not a fixed inheritance. It is a dynamic, responsive biological system, one that reacts to timing, nutrition, nervous system state, and the circadian rhythms of your own body. That system can be influenced. It can be shifted. The numbers you see today are not the ceiling. They are the current output of a process that now, for the first time, you have a complete picture of. You are not failing. You have been working without the full picture, doing everything the standard framework asked of you, following every instruction you were given, and arriving at results that match a framework built around incomplete information. The afternoon is not a liability. It is the most responsive window in your 24-hour cycle. The one moment where targeted, consistent action produces the most measurable change. No other single hour in the day responds the way that window does. Give the biology 21 days and let the numbers speak. Not your physician's interpretation, not your medication schedule's assumptions, the actual numbers. The tools are in your hands. The window opens every afternoon. What happens from here is yours to determine. If this video gave you something you have been looking for, the subscribe button is right below. One click keeps this kind of content in your feed, clinically grounded, built around what is actually happening in your body rather than what fits on a standard checklist. And if you know someone managing stubborn blood pressure, someone doing everything right and still not getting answers, share this video with them. I also have a free Telegram channel where I share health tips for you all. It's in the description. Most people living with hypertension have never heard of the afternoon window. Giving them this is not a social media action. It is a meaningful gift. The next video is already on your screen.